Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to episode number 170 of Let's Go Racing. Tyler Jones, Dominic Aragon here with you as we begin a new season in NASCAR as we embark on the Daytona 500 this week from the World Center of Racing, Daytona International Speedway. We will preview the Great American Race and go over everything you need to know for Sunday's spectacle, as we're going to be joined by former NASCAR driver Norm Benning. He's set to join us coming up in just a few moments. We'll have our news and notes. We'll answer your mailbag questions. We'll give our picks for the race, our championship picks as well, coming up in just a matter of moments. Before we bring Norm in, Dom, it has been too long, my friend. Welcome back. Another season here on Let's Go Racing. And I'm excited. This NASCAR season going to Daytona. I know you and I have been there many times. It just never gets old when we get done with the Super Bowl, and I'm happy to be done with the Super Bowl. That's another story.
That is, yes.
And we get to Daytona. I'm so thrilled for this. I cannot wait for this weekend and for this new NASCAR season to get here.
One sport ends, another begins, and that's where we're at here in 2025. And now this marks 6 calendar years that we have done this show. And of course, David saying he couldn't be here this week. He's actually getting ready to fly to Daytona at the time of the taping of this show. So he will be joining us next week here back on Let's Go Racing. But nonetheless, Tyler, a great season ahead that's going to be embarking on all 3 seasons. And we do have a little bit of an inside peek here with Norm joining us here on the show in a minute. Going to be attempting to qualify for the truck race later this week with the number 6 team.
Yes, that'll be awesome to see Norm when he joins us coming up in just a bit. Real quick before we bring Norm in, Dom, this NASCAR season, another year in the NASCAR Cup Series. Obviously, there's been a lot of movement when it comes to teams and charters and drivers. We're sticking with the same playoff format. We have a minor change in the point system with the new Xfinity point for fastest lap, but with all the changes and everything going on, what are you most excited about this NASCAR season?
Gosh, I'm really excited to see if the parity continues, which I think it will with the next gen era, and seeing that representation too in the lower series of Justin Allgaier now as a defending NASCAR Xfinity Series champion, and how much of a brand ambassador he has been for the sport. Seeing how that role continues now as a past champion of that series, as well as some of the moves in the Truck Series, which we'll get to here in a minute with somebody like a Chandler Smith, a Daniel Hemrick, who are running Truck Series full-time schedules in 2025. Certainly will shake that up, as well as Lane Riggs, friend of the show, as well. So there's a lot to be excited for, I think, in all 3 series. All of them are going to have their headlines, but I would say I'm really looking forward to seeing how much of that parity continues. And truly, I think, Tyler, it will take a win to make the playoffs. We will have some good guys miss the playoffs this year because they are high in points, but a win will bump them in favor of somebody else, like we have seen in the past.
Dom, what intrigues me, I'm fascinated with Hendrick Motorsports. Kyle Larson, he's been the best driver in the sport probably the last 4 or 5 years, and he still only has one championship to show for it. Chase Elliott had a nice bounce back year last season, but he's still not quite to his old self. Alex Bowman had a bit of a bounce back year, but obviously there's pressure on him and that 48 team. And then William Byron, he's been really good the last 2 years, but he's still looking for his first title. I think all eyes are going to be on Hendrick to see who's going to emerge, and maybe there's going to be a couple guys that emerge contending for that title.
Absolutely. And I think, too, the one thing we have to keep an eye on, too, is with Chevrolet and the Camaro not being produced in 2025 as a street vehicle, how much of that might affect the on-track product we might see. That may not even affect it, but it could with the fact that we've had the same body now for 4 years with the Chevy Camaro. And we know Chevrolet's still supporting NASCAR, but you got to wonder, that's on the back of my mind heading into 2025, too. Can Chevrolet keep up that dominance with no V8 vehicle on the streets anymore?
Yeah, it'll be fascinating for sure. We are joined this week by Norm Benning. And Dom, this is a guy that's got quite the story, who's had quite the career in NASCAR, to say the least. Before we bring Norm in, what would be your quick introduction synopsis on Norm Benning?
There's 2 things that come to mind. This year's going to mark his 20th year in the NASCAR Truck Series, but I think an even cooler stat line. How many drivers can say that they shared the racetrack at the same time with all 3 7-time NASCAR Cup Series champions? That, of course, being Richard Petty, Dale Earnhardt, and Jimmy Johnson. I think if you put that list together, that'd be a very tiny list, maybe 20, 30 people that can say they have done that. Norm Benning is certainly one of them. Hailing from Pennsylvania, running his NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series team. He did announce that he's going to be running a few races this year. Daytona is going to be the opener. And Norm, you're going to be trying to make your way into the field Friday night with qualifying on Thursday. But we appreciate you taking the time to spend a little bit of this evening with us. I believe you're inside the Daytona International Speedway as we speak.
Yeah, I was down in Titusville at a friend of mine's place, and I just drove into the track here 5 minutes ago. I got my bus in here on the road course. I look out the front windshield, and I can see the start finish line at Daytona Speedway.
So
how many people can say they have a front yard of Daytona International Speedway?
Norm, coming back to Daytona, another year running NASCAR. Does it ever get old? Does it still hit you the same like it did when you first came to Daytona years ago?
Well, it's been old. I mean, the only part of this I like is crawling in the window. Everything else is just a lot of stress, and I guess, as I said, I still love driving them and still physically able. And if you look at the stats, as you said, Xfinity started this year an award for the fastest lap in a race, and I did that at Talladega in October. So I missed out on the award, but I was the fastest truck there and had the most fastest laps in the race. And if I wouldn't have got spun on pit road, and then with 9 to go, I was coming up through, and 3 trucks got together, and I had to drive below the yellow line going into turn 1. And by the time I got back up on the racetrack, the draft left me. So it was really disappointing because I had a really, really fast truck.
Possibly a chance of redemption here this upcoming weekend of sorts, Norm, too. And you've shared this before too, but share with our listeners. You have a pretty cool thing going on with the truck on how it's been prepped, who's been helping. Tell us a little bit about that process and getting this truck ready for Daytona.
Yeah, Don Henderson has been wonderful. I mean, he knows that I can still drive these things, and with really good equipment, I can have a good time. And Tom, I can't thank Tom enough. He's part of the Henderson team, and he's taken me under his wing here, and he's really helped me a bunch. And as I said, I don't know how I was the fastest truck at Talladega, but I was, because we don't have the budget to be the fastest truck, and we were. I don't know what the speed was, but it was 50 point. So I don't remember what the time was, but it was the fastest lap all day on lap 17.
And I think too, it's worth noting, Tyler, for those that may not be aware, Henderson Motorsports, they have that deep history in the truck series. They have been known to pick that quality over quantity, if you will, in running their racers. And they did win a race with Parker Kligerman on a super speedway Talladega, I believe it was 2 or 3 years ago. So the truck that you're taking this weekend, Norm, is going to be a fast truck.
Absolutely. I know it's going to be one of the fastest trucks in the race. The qualifying thing makes me nervous, because I'm not locked in, and you got to cut a really good lap. And there's, I guess, 38 trucks here, so we'll see what happens.
Mm-hmm. So without going, of course, into trade secrets and revealing your hand to your competition here, but what really sets up a driver for a good lap? Are you focused more on, say, putting more grill tape on the front of the vehicle? Is it more of just nailing down the fast lap? Is it a combination of that? Is it something else? What goes into making a fast lap at a place like Daytona or Talladega?
Well, first of all, you got to have the engine oil pretty hot, transmission rear end. You have to have all that stuff heated. You really need to get off the pit road good if you can to lug the engine at all. You really got to get everything you can, because that means everything on your qualifying lap is how you get off pit road. And you just take it up to the rev limiter, going in turn 1, you just get up against the wall and ride the wall, and then when you come back around, you drop to the bottom, and then you hug the yellow line all the way around.
There you go. And two, Norm, you've been on both ends of that heartbreak where you have made a race, you have missed out on making the field, and all those experiences you've had over the year. Does it make, I don't want to say easier, but does it make them less stressful, or because you have those experiences under your belt where it's easier to come to a situation like this where you're attempting the race on Thursday, you know you're not locked in. Do those get easier over the years, I guess?
I don't. It's about the same. All I know is we give 100%. We don't have the major responsibility. I'd love to have it to really see what I could do.
Mhm.
But we're getting 100% out of what we have, and that's all we can do. Hope for the best.
Mhm.
Absolutely. We're joined by Norm Benning here on Let's Go Racing this week as we are looking ahead to Speedweeks, the Daytona 500, of course, coming up on Sunday. Norm, over the years, what are some of your favorite memories of racing at Daytona? What comes to mind?
Well, I've been in position 3 different times, actually, to try and win the race. With I think it was 12 to go. The one year the fuel pump went from 9.5 pounds to 3 pounds with 10 or 12 laps to go, and I ended up finishing 12th. But I really had a shot to win if it wasn't for that fuel pump. And another year, I was leading the race, and the side window popped out for my own reason, but I had a shot that year. So 3 different times. In one year, I had a tire go down. Right, I had really fast equipment and just didn't close the deal.
Mhm. And I think over the years too, I think one cool thing that I know you never made the Daytona 500, but you ran a lot of those 125 races, the 150s, and you had the opportunity to be in a position to make the Daytona 500. How was it throughout the 80s, the 90s, and the early 2000s? I think even as recent as 2010 to attempt to make the Great American Race.
Yeah, I actually had one of the DEI cars and um, gave it our best shot. Again, we had an issue with a fuel cable or something, and cost me making the race. But we've been fast on occasion. I've done pretty well at these what used to be the Winston Open in Charlotte. Run quite a few of those and had some really decent finishes. And one year, Roger Penske actually won the race and came over and shook my hand because he did a really good job for an independent. Yeah, Roger Penske is a class act, and for him to take the time to come over and see me, that was pretty cool.
And I think that's something that shouldn't be understated either, Norm. You run your team not in the NASCAR hub of Charlotte, North Carolina, or in the greater Charlotte area, but rather out of Western Pennsylvania. And I guess just tell us for the listeners that may not be aware a little bit about what it takes to show up to the track, to how things are at your race shop and prepping these trucks throughout the season.
Yeah, I mean, my shop's 3,000 square feet, and I have some other satellite shops too. I have places in Mooresville where I work, and all the work is, as far as framework and bodies and all that stuff. Mooresville, and I pretty much just this truck I'm running now was maintained in Henderson's shop, and that was pretty cool because when I went to Talladega, I basically never touched the truck. All I did was drive it, and that was something different for me. I just showed up, and I was a little more involved this time. We were pulling it down on the pull down rig, chassis dyno, and all that stuff, and I was there for all that. Mm-hmm. And I saw the numbers, and as I said, Tom is really cool because we've known each other for at least 20 years, and he knows what I'm capable of. And I said at Talladega, he was a big part of the reason why I was the fastest truck out there. And can't thank him enough.
Mm-hmm. And Norm, your team had posted a few days ago there on social media of the truck getting ready for the season, the new colors, the sponsors. Tell us a little about the partners that you have coming in for Daytona and beyond, if they are at this time.
Yeah, MDIA has been with me this will be the third year. They're an associate sponsor. They help. And JZL is one of the other sponsors. He's actually a lawn care company, and we have Don Henderson's name on there. And we're working on some other stuff. Pennsylvania Motor Speedway helps me somewhat. I used to race their dirt late models and won a lot of races there. They're actually on the hood of the truck. And, that's, as I said, there may be a couple others on there before the race, so we're hoping.
Mm-hmm. So don't tell me you're the one manning the phones, getting all of I know you're the jack of all trades. You have your hands on all these different things, but are you the one taking all the sponsorship calls too, or do you have somebody helping you with how does all that look?
Actually, I do about half of it. Guy named Kevin down in Titusville, Florida, that helps out. And, he does some of the calls, but I enjoy talking to those people. I had Sobe, which was the biggest sponsor I ever had for 2.5 years, and I fly airplanes, and I actually met him on a charter, and that's how the sponsorship happened. I mentioned it to him, and I flew up there to see him, and 2 hours later, I walked out with a major sponsorship. It was pretty cool. No marketing people, no nothing, just John Bello and me. And the same thing happened with Shodine Holmes when I was racing in the Cup Series. Shodine Holmes out of Chicago, I met him in the garage area. He came to the race, and I met him, and he told me, he said, I've tried to talk to several drivers in this garage. Nobody talked to me, and you dropped what you were doing to talk to me, so I'd love to sponsor you. That's how that got handled.
Well, I think of the Sobe brand, Tyler. I don't know if these were available in your area as a kid, but I think of those, I think it was a pina colada flavor, and then there was like a strawberry banana. I haven't seen those in stores for years, but maybe Norm can help us get those back on the store shelves or something. I remember those drinks being really, really good.
They're still in the gas station. There was Sobe water and Sobe. See, there used to be 28 flavors, and then Pepsi bought the company and got rid of all but 8. Because Coke and Pepsi aren't going to let anybody get too big.
Yeah, I remember Sobe was available in elementary school. We could buy them with our lunch back in the day. I haven't seen Sobe in a minute, but I would love to try one again if I saw one. But very great stuff there. Norm, when you get in the truck, when you get in the race car, like at this point in your career, what keeps you motivated? What keeps you driven to go out there and still do this?
Well, again, Talladega, I was in a position to possibly, at least be in the top 5. But things out of my control happened to keep me from doing it. And so I brought that same truck back here to Daytona, and all the stars line up. I'll write a new chapter, and people will quit talking about Eldora.
Yeah. What would be a successful weekend for you this weekend, Norm?
The top 5. That's all. That's what I believe. That's what I'm going to be going for. And top 5, I'd be tickled to death.
That'd be great. We'll be rooting you on, certainly so, and hopefully we can see you make that happen, Norm. Top 5, I would love that for you, and would be great to see. Norm Benning joining us here on Let's Go Racing this week. Norm, a couple more things before we get to some headlines here with you real quick. At this point, the competitors that are out there, who comes to mind? Is there anybody in particular that maybe you got some side bets going, or anything that any other drivers that you're trying to beat out there, you're trying to square yourself up with?
All of them. There every truck out there is a well-funded truck. There's, years ago that wasn't the case, but now everybody out there, it's there's a lot of cowboy trucks out there other people own, and Third Sport and all these different people. There is no junk out there anymore. So it's tougher now than it's ever been.
Dom, anything else you got?
No, I just I just know I can race with the best of them with stuff I got. Well, hopefully I'll prove that Friday night.
Yeah.
But like I said, Tyler, I don't think it can be understated. How many drivers can you actually name that have raced against all seven-time NASCAR Cup Series champions that have gone toe to toe of the drivers of yesteryear and the drivers of the future? So Norm Benning is certainly that cool, unique bridge, I think, in the NASCAR garage area and among the NASCAR drivers that not many can say they've had those cool opportunities to race against some of these legends of the sport, some of these all-time greats.
Definitely,
I
definitely.
believe my first race was Dover. Well, it was Dover, and that was Richard Petty's last race. So, and I remember uh, at that, I believe Jeff Gordon, that was his first race. But I remember that year, uh, Richard Petty had his last race, and Jeff Gordon had his first, I believe. And
Yeah.
memory served me. So, and so yeah, Jimmy Jones is a pretty good friend of mine, I guess. And I remember at Eldora, he texted me and said, Norm, it's one thing to be on the edge of destruction against the wall. It's a whole other thing when somebody's hitting you at the same time. So that was pretty cool.
That's great. That's great.
Yes.
Norm,
Drivers.
Norm Benning joining us here.
Tony Stewart has that truck. I don't know if you know that or not.
Yes,
No,
the Eldora truck, right?
Yeah, he has that Eldora truck in his museum up there.
That's too cool. That's awesome. We're going to get to our news and notes segment. Norm is going to stick around with us, and we'll get to our mailbag for some questions with Norm coming up in just a bit. But Don, let's start with some headlines. We could be seeing some big changes, potentially Sunoco gone, Xfinity. Looks like it's their last year with the Xfinity Series. I don't know what they're doing with the restart zone without Geico now. Some big changes here.
Yeah, certainly on the sponsorship front and official partners, there's going to be a lot of movers and shakers over the next 12 months. And certainly Xfinity signing on for one more year to be the entitlement sponsor of NASCAR's equivalent of the AAA series, the second tier Xfinity, Busch Grand National, as it's been called over the years, as well as Sunoco, the official fuel supplier of NASCAR, who has been the official supplier since 2004, 2005. They are in an exclusive window to talk with NASCAR about extending that, but no word on how that's going at the time of publication or at the time of the publication of this podcast, rather. Now, the Sports Business Journal is reporting too. They were the first to report on this, Tyler, about how Sunoco has shifted their business model over the years, going from a more business to consumer model to a business to business model, where they have sold off many of their gas stations and properties across the country to 7-Eleven and are doing more things with oil and piping and with their energy transfer parent company. So NASCAR, it is believed NASCAR would want more a business to consumer type of relationship with whoever their official fuel partner is. So that makes you wonder, would a company like VP Fuels, Mobil One, British Petroleum, could that pave the way for some of them to potentially enter the sport as the official fuel supplier? But certainly got to imagine Sunoco is going to have some sort of talk with NASCAR, but no word at this time. They're entering the last year of their agreement.
Yeah, Sunoco's been around a long time now, and we've seen go through some big changes when they went to American ethanol and all of that. And I would imagine, Norm, if Sunoco is gone after this year, that could be a big effect potentially on these teams because not all gas is the same here. Essentially, if they make a change, there's going to be there might potentially be a learning curve of some sorts here if Sunoco's gone after this year. How would this affect the teams, you think?
Well, the engine builders would have to be the ones dealing with it, Elmore and so forth. I'd love to see Union 76 come back. I don't think that's possible. But,
that's right. They were the official fuel partner before.
Yeah. 76, they were the initial fuel partner before Sunoco.
Yes.
Yeah.
They used to have those orange balls all around the racetrack with people in them and cameras in them, and it was pretty cool.
Oh, yeah. It was iconic seeing the 76 up there, at Talladega and some of these other places. So, yeah, that would be something if Sunoco's gone and who could potentially step up. I would think, Dom, that being the official fuel supplier of NASCAR with just as much, branding there is out there that it's a golden opportunity for somebody. I mean, there's so many gas stations left and right. I mean, you can't go past a NASCAR track without passing a Buc-ee's these days. Like somebody would step up.
I think so. I think NASCAR would still be in good hands. And you got to imagine, I don't know what the specifics are as far as what's expected from a fuel partner, but I know Sunoco has provided the gas free of charge to the team. So I imagine a deal like that would probably still be in the works of whoever takes over that partnership or if Sunoco chooses to continue. But this will be very interesting to see how this plays out. I feel like we'll have a better idea come March or April if Sunoco is staying or if NASCAR will be on the hunt for another partner with that.
Norm, I've always found it interesting that the teams get their gas from Sunoco for free, but you guys are paying hundreds, thousands of dollars every week for these tires from Goodyear. How does that work?
Well, not really. Tires, a set of tires now is $2,750, and that hurts when you have to get. That's why I'm really not interested in these intermediate tracks because you got to buy 6 sets of tires and $2,750 a set. That gets expensive, and the prices don't justify it. And, so I'm not really interested in doing that stuff. But I love the speedways and the Martinvilles and the road course stuff like that. I don't have any desire to do them. I don't have without a major sponsor.
Yeah, I get that. I get that. Dom, what else we got?
So if you are going to the Daytona 500 this weekend, and we know there's a lot of people that are going to be ascending from all parts of the world to Daytona Beach, but specifically, if you're going to the race on Sunday, you may want to plan ahead for a little bit of extra screening and extra security. CBS News was the first to report that sitting President Donald J. Trump will be attending the Daytona 500 on Sunday. So back-to-back major sporting events for the president. This will mark the first time that a sitting president has attended a NASCAR race since 2020, which was also President Donald Trump on his first term. And before that, Tyler, President George W. Bush was the last sitting president to attend a NASCAR race, which was the 2004 Daytona 500. So before that, the first time a NASCAR president, so a little bit of a history lesson here, that attended any kind of NASCAR sanctioned race was President Ronald Reagan in 1984, attending Richard Petty's 200th and final NASCAR victory on Independence Day in 1984 for the July Daytona race. So certainly if you are planning on going to the race on Sunday, plan ahead for Secret Service and screening. And Tyler, you can attest to this. You were at the 2020 Daytona 500. You need to get there early.
You know what? It's funny you say that because I had no delays and no issues getting through security and getting there at a decent time.
Oh,
So,
wow.
um, we could say that, but I could speak to the contrary actually on that front. But it is a big spectacle when the president is there. President Trump delivered a speech before the race back in 2020 as well. His wife Melania was there. It was unique, and he gave the command to start the engines and all that as well. And I mean, it's a big deal. And President Trump's no stranger to the NASCAR circuit. He was at I think it was like the Coke 600 last year too, and JD Vance attended a NASCAR race as well. Norm, this is always a big deal. I don't care who you voted for. I think this is an honor for NASCAR to have a sitting president, to have President Trump there in attendance for the biggest race of the year.
I was here the last time he was here, and we were probably 6 feet apart, and he gave me a thumbs up and a smile and everything. It was so cool, and I'll be here this Sunday. Hopefully, get a chance to talk to him or get close to him or something. But I did, in fact, vote for Trump.
Well, there you have it. And gosh, hopefully, the security, I'm sure, is going to be intense on Sunday. But hey, you already be there. I'm sure as a driver, you already have some sort of clearance already.
I'll be on pit road. I'll be on pit road for the 500. And
Very
again, I'm really looking forward to seeing it.
Oh yeah, that'll be great. And President Trump going from the Super Bowl to the Daytona 500. Dom, like that's a pipe dream. I would love to just spend my Sundays going from the Super Bowl to Daytona. I mean, that sounds like a great time.
There you go. And I know you were there media row during the week of the Super Bowl, but to actually be there at the game Sunday, I'm sure is a different story. And to go back to back races, what a spectacle. What a great opportunity to go to back events. And I would imagine too, I'm sure we'll hear it at some point too, because the White House, no matter the political affiliation, has tended to honor past champions from the year before across multiple sports. I imagine there will be some sort of NASCAR honoree, whether it be the Daytona 500 or the championship or both from this White House at some point during the year.
Yeah, yeah, probably so. I would think that's a good chance of that happening. Dom, this year we got some big changes of driver movement and some teams that have been sold to other teams, new charters, the 2311 and front row situation. They've been granted their charters for now, but that's still ongoing. There's a lot of moving parts and pieces and still some changes even leading up to Sunday here.
Yes, absolutely. And if I missed any, feel free to let me know at the end. But we have a little list here of off-season moves and things to look for. And I get it for a lot of fans, and myself included, it might take a few races to get used to new drivers and new places. But included on that list, you have Noah Gragson joining with the four team at Front Row Motorsports coming from Stewart Haas Racing. Justin Haley making that full-time swap now back at Spire Motorsports, a reunion of sorts in the seven car. Ty Dillon at Colleague Racing in the rebranded number 10 car. Daniel Hemmick previously drove the 31 that has been rebranded to the 10 car. AJ Allmendinger also on the Colleague front, back to full-time racing in the NASCAR Cup Series. A ride he ran full-time in 2023, back in 25, the Colleague in the 16. Chase Briscoe replacing the outgoing Martin Truex Jr. in the 19 car in his first year at Joe Gibbs Racing. Josh Berry taking the vacated seat from Harrison Burton at Wood Brothers Racing in the 21 car. Todd Gilliland taking over the flagship 34 vehicle for Front Row Motorsports. Riley Herbst taking over the 35 in a third chartered entry, one of those mentions of 2311 in Front Row and ongoing with that battle. Herbst running for Rookie of the Year in the 35 car. You have Zane Smith, another reunion in the works here. Front Row Motorsports, Zane Smith in the 38 car returning. Cole Custer back in the Cup Series in the 41 car in the newly rebranded Haas Factory team. Ricky Stenhouse, still in the 47 car, but a rebranded Hayek Motorsports taking over the ownership group from the JTG Doherty people. The number 51 team with Rick Ware Racing. Cody Ware returning full time to the NASCAR Cup Series with his father's team. Michael McDowell in the 71 car, Spire Motorsports, leaving his longtime ride at Front Row Motorsports, overtaking that ride. And Shane Van Gisbergen, the other Rookie of the Year contender, driving the number 88 car at Trackhouse Racing. Those are your full-time entries. And Tyler, I got to say, this has to probably the first time. I know that was a lot to throw at everybody, but the first time in a long time, or maybe the first time ever in this charter system, where you have all 36 chartered teams running a full-time driver.
And I think that was the goal. I think that's what NASCAR wanted. I would consider that a big success to have full-time drivers in all 36 chartered entries, and I think that's a great thing. It's a great thing to have everybody on the same playing field as far as that goes. There's a few things that stand out to me of some of these changes. Chase Briscoe in the 19 car. Stuart Haas had some problems the last few years. He did get to victory lane last year at Darlington. I think there's going to be a lot of pressure on him to see what he can do, knowing that he's in a very good car there at the 19, one that expects to contend for a championship. How can he do? To me, that's going to be fascinating to watch with him in that 19 car. From what I heard, I guess they asked him to lose some weight and get into some better shape, lose 15 pounds, and he's done so. Michael McDowell leaving front row and trying to take that next big step up. Is Spire ready to compete at that next level? To me, that's intriguing. And then SVG going to Trackhouse full time. We know he's going to compete on the road courses. How far along has he come on these oval tracks? Can he get in the playoff and can he contend at oval tracks? I think that remains to be seen. It should be fascinating. Norm, of these changes that we're seeing at the cup level, what stands out to you?
I haven't heard my name mentioned. I'm not in any of those rides. It's disappointing. I'd love to give it a shot again.
Well, we'll get you in that Rick Ware car. I'm sure you can do better than Cody, Norm.
Yeah, I'd love to. I'm ready. I'm approved.
He's approved.
I don't know what happened with Mike Wallace. I was kind of disappointed that whatever it is. I mean, I was looking forward to seeing him out there again.
Dom, what about you? What intrigues you of these changes?
I think what you mentioned there too, with Briscoe being in the 19 car, SVG in the 88. I have those two guys on my playoff grid making the playoffs with those new changes. And I look at Briscoe. I think there's parallels here with Martin Truex Jr. in the sort of the team that they came from prior. You look at Truex winning the title with Furniture Row Racing, Chase Briscoe landing the 14 team. Both of these guys were in their dream jobs, and they were, I think, had things fallen their way, they would have been very happy to finish their racing careers with the teams that they were at before coming to Joe Gibbs Racing. But man, what a step up that's going to be joining the 19 team. Because if Chase Briscoe can run the way he did in that Stewart Haas equipment, I can imagine they're going to be multi-win seasons in that 19 car. I think we're really going to get to see Chase Briscoe shine in a Cup car. He's making the round of eight in a Stewart Haas car a couple of years ago. I want to see what he's going to be doing in that 19 car. And I think when we're talking about some of these guys making the playoffs, Tyler, I think SBG may not have that straight up speed. Kind of reminds me right now of a Marcos Ambrose. Stellar on the road courses and super speedways. Wasn't the best at intermediates at the time, but got better over time. SVG will be one of these guys who wins at a road course during the regular season and will knock a guy out that maybe is ninth or 10th in overall points, but will miss the playoffs because these guys are lower in points, but they do have that victory.
Yeah, yeah, similar to Juan Pablo Montoya too, in that same sense. We've seen this before. AJ Allmendinger, same kind of thing. Yeah, that'll be an intriguing team to watch for sure. Odds for Daytona and then also the championship. How are those looking? We'll give our picks here in just a moment. Dom, what's the favorite stack up as?
So when you're looking at the NASCAR Cup Series, so we'll leave it to just Cup this weekend. But when you're looking at the Daytona 500, odds makers are looking at what a storyline this would be. There's a lot of parallels here, Tyler. 20th try for his Daytona 500. He's come close so many times, never done it. You could argue he's on the back half of his career. He's a multi-champion. And what a storybook winning thing this would be to come off a winless year to win the Daytona 500, much like how the driver of yesteryear did this. The parallels here, Dale Earnhardt, Richard Childress Racing, Kyle Busch. Kyle Busch is your odds-on favorite at the time of this taping at 10 to 1 or plus 1,000 for the 2025 Daytona 500. Joining that short list too of drivers that are at or below 20 to 1 or plus 2,000 or lower. Kyle Larson, 11 to 1. Chase Elliott, 12 to 1. Ryan Blaney, 13 to 1. Joey Logano, the first driver here that has actually won the Daytona 500. There's 8 of them entered in this weekend's race, 14 to 1, along with Brad Keselowski. Denny Hamlin, who has the most Daytona 500 wins among active competition, 15 to 1. Last year's winner, William Byron, 18 to 1. And Todd Gilliland coming in at 20 to 1. Those would be your top 10 of odds-on favorites for the Daytona 500.
I'm going to go with Ryan Blaney. I think this is Blaney's time. He's been so good at these plate tracks. We know Ford is going to bring a ton of speed. I like Blaney to win the 500 this week. Norm, who do you think is going to end up winning the 500 on Sunday?
Well, I'm pulling for Kyle Larson and maybe Joey Logano.
Those would be some good stories. Logano hasn't won in 10 years. Larson, what is it, Tyler? He's finished like seventh 3 or 4 times at Daytona. He's never even had a top five at Daytona. I think he's had a top five at Talladega. But what a story that would be if Kyle Larson could win at Super Speedway Racing. Kyle Larson's great at a lot of things, and I feel like Super Speedway Racing just isn't one of them, but that could very well be erased on Sunday.
Yeah, very well could be the case. So there you have it. Those are our picks for the 500. What do the odds look like for the championship, Dom?
So for the championship, your odds-on favorites heading into Daytona, your early odds-on favorite to win the 2025 NASCAR Championship. If you had to guess, Tyler, what's Caesar Sportsbook saying?
I'm going Kyle Larson.
And what odds do you think they have him at?
Probably like plus 600 maybe.
You're very close. 5 to 1, plus 500 for Kyle Larson to win. Christopher Bell, close second at 5.5 or plus 550. Ryan Blaney and William Byron tied there in third at plus 750 or 7.5 to 1. Denny Hamlin, 8 to 1. Tyler Reddick, 9 to 1. Joey Logano, your defending series champion, at 9.5 to 1. The 2020 champion, Chase Elliott, at 11 to 1. Chase Briscoe, 18 to 1. I can't say I've ever seen the odds that short for him, Tyler, but of course, new ride, new face, better equipment.
There you go. I got to go with Larson. I think he gets that second title. I think they built up some nice momentum towards the end of last year. and he's coming in hungry. This is Kyle Larson's time. There's no better driver in the sport right now than Kyle Larson. I'm going with Larson to win the title. Norm, who do you got? Who's going to win the championship?
I feel the same way as you. Kyle Larson, I'll be pulling for him. He's my buddy.
There you go. I like it. How about you, Dom?
So I'll differ again here. So I said Blaney for the Daytona 500. I'm going to go Christopher Bell winning his first championship in 2025. I said Hamlin in 23, Byron in 24. Maybe we'll see if I get Bell right in 25.
Okay, I like it. As an Oklahoma guy, I would love to see Christopher Bell become the first ever NASCAR champion from my home state. That'd be awesome if that's the case.
And he's the
Uh,
only driver from Oklahoma that's ever won a Cup race, if memory serves correct.
he is the only driver from the state of Oklahoma to ever win a NASCAR event, period,
Even
in the
better.
top three series. Yes. So it'd be great. I'm already making the case that he needs to be in the Oklahoma Sports Hall of Fame. I don't know how he isn't already at this point, especially with what he's done with the Chili Bowl and all that, too. Before we go, let's get to our mailbag segment where we ask you guys to submit questions to us on Facebook, X, also by email. You can email us, davidstarpodcast@gmail.com. And let's go to the first question in the inbox this week. This is for Norm, and it comes from Betty. Betty wants to know, Norm, what is your proudest accomplishment or achievement of your career?
Well, it's tough. I'd have to think about it, but just racing in the Cup Series and having the respect of people like Pinsky, and again, Richard Petty came over, shook my hand for my first race and his last. Tony Stewart has bought my race car, and it's enshrined forever in the museum, 57 truck, and there's just a lot of things. I mean, I could write a list of really nice things that have happened. Again, I'm not one of the people that have major sponsorship, but I've had a few shining moments, and I just really appreciate the fact of being in NASCAR and having people like Jimmy Johnson and Harvick and different people just respect what I'm doing. It's pretty cool. And again, Kyle Larson, he was calling the race at Eldora. Kyle Larson was, and he really had a lot of nice things to say.
That's cool. That's cool. Dom, I'll ask the same to you. Betty's question, but for your answer, what is your proudest accomplishment?
Proudest accomplishment. So if we're talking professionally, I would say one of there's a few things that would come to mind. I don't know if proud's the right word, but you definitely have to take a step back sometimes and just appreciate the journey, like starting the Racing Experts website and how that story started and that journey, how that's all been to being recognized by NASCAR and what we do and a legit motorsports news source. And this one too, the Jeff Bodine book that we worked on for 9 years, and of all the people that Jeff could have trusted to have me do that and to help tell his story, I think that's something I don't take lightly. And so things like that, or even to like playing in a band in New Mexico. We didn't make it big, but we made some money playing some music. And one of our little claims to fame is that we got to jokingly say we opened for Quiet Riot, an 80s hair metal band, because we were the first band to sign up for an event. So we got to pick that last time slot and hit in the recording studio. So I got to admit, Tyler, it's been a pretty fun life. There's been some really cool things, and I'd like to think I'm just getting started. How about you?
Yeah. Don't die yet on us, Dom. Keep it going. Keep it going. For me, it's just the events that I've gotten to cover. I just covered the Super Bowl last week, which was just took the cake. Incredible. I've been to several Daytonas now. I cover the Final Four every year now. Golf majors and getting to go to a college football playoff here and all that. Just being around events and big events and playing a small part, like that's probably what I'm most proud of there. Another question in the mailbag for you, Norm. This one, it comes from Alper. Alper wants to know, Norm, do you intend on trying to break Morgan Shepherd's record of being the oldest driver to run a race?
Well, it's not on my mind, but from what I was told, I already broke his record by running a NASCAR race on the lead laps for the whole race. And supposedly I have the record for that now.
I love it. Well, from what I've been told is, as far as making a start, you're about 4 years away from Morgan's record here, Norm.
Oh, that's not a goal of mine. I mean, I think it's all a mistake. I'm not really that old. Don't believe what you read. Yeah. I just want everybody to feel sorry for me.
No, I would say that's one of the most unique things about NASCAR compared to other sports is that we get these drivers, maybe they're not racing full time, but doing the one-offs and you know their older years. Like I still remember out of left field when Darrell Waltrip decided to run the Aaron's Dream Machine all those years later in a Busch race out of nowhere. Like those have been some cool moments.
Absolutely. I think that's what makes NASCAR so cool and the respect there is for the drivers of past and present. And gosh, I remember there was one race, maybe you both remember this. It was at Talladega in 2008. Morgan Shepherd is running top 10 for most of the race. And that's all they were talking about on the broadcast. I don't think he finished top 10, but he ran a majority of the race on the lead lap in the lead pack. And that's all they were talking about was this self-funded independent driver, Morgan Shepherd, running up front. So you don't see that in other sports. And I feel like that's what makes NASCAR even that much cooler and more unique, that you do get opportunities like that.
Yeah, definitely so. Norm,
I was
before we,
Martin.
yeah,
Let me
go
say
ahead,
one
Norm.
of Martinsville ran into Ron Hornaday. He actually talked about how good my truck was handling before I lost my brakes. But I was asking Ron why he doesn't come back, and Mike Skinner and Rusty Wallace. All those people can still drive a race car. I'm sure a few of them would love to come back just on a part-time basis, just have fun. That's what I'm doing, is just having fun. I don't care about chasing points or any of that stuff. And as long as I'm physically able to do it. And like Ken Schrader told me, he's not going to quit until he can't fit through the window.
That's a good
Oh,
answer.
so
No,
somebody at Joe Gibbs Racing must have given that message to Chase Briscoe, I guess.
Yeah, he better be in shape or he's in trouble.
yeah. I do got to ask you, Norman. This is one of my favorite things to ask people because you get 30 different drivers, you're going to get 30 different answers. But ahead of the season, because of course anything's possible at Daytona, you go out, you win on Friday night. Is there a contingency plan in place? Is there some sort of scramble to get you run the full season because you're now playoff eligible?
Well, that would be my goal, is to run every race at that point. It's not out of the realm of possibility. I mean, other miracles have happened, but people have won this race that, and, nobody thought could. But yeah, if I were going here, I'd be looking for sponsorship to run every race and get some really good people involved. And I'm here for that reason, just to fight for a win and see what happens.
I love it.
Good problem to have, Tyler.
Definitely so. Norm, plug away. Where can people find you? And obviously, you're going to be running the truck race. Where can people connect and see all the stuff you're doing, man?
Well, I mean, as far as at Daytona, I'm actually in the infield on the road course, and anybody that comes in here can come over and see us. And I love talking to all the fans. One of the things I do, and so that's where I'm at. If you look at the start finish line and go straight backwards to the road course, that's where I'm at.
Perfect. And two, Norm, on that front, leaving Daytona and as you advance the select races you're gonna be doing this year, how do people get in touch with either yourself or with someone on your team if they're interested in partnering with you guys?
Well, I can give them my phone number. I'm not bashful. 412-600-2943.
There you have it. You just don't call Norm in the middle of the night.
Hey, listen, I'm the owner, driver, marketing guy, and the janitor.
There you go, the Norm of all
So
trades.
that's my titles.
I love it. I love it. Great way to cap off our first episode of the season. Norm Benning joining us. Appreciate him stopping by. You, the listener, as well, for joining us. Make sure to subscribe to Let's Go Racing. New episodes out throughout the season, each and every week. Apple, Spotify, Google Podcasts, wherever you listen to podcasts. Also, check us out on social media at Star Podcast on X, Facebook, and by email, davidstarpodcast@gmail.com. And check out the Studio Soapbox Network. This show, The Jones Report, Coach Bo Knows podcast, available on all podcast platforms. For Norm Benning, Dominic Aragon, David Starr, I'm Tyler Jones, saying so long. This has been another edition of Let's Go Racing. We will see you next week. Enjoy the race at Daytona, and we'll see you on the other side.